You are listening to Conversations on the Way with me, your host, Nana Jumphy. I've gotten more than a few requests to get some clarity on what is going on with the strikes in Hollywood. It seems the Writers Guild of America has tentatively entered into a settlement. Does that mean that actors are off strike too? Are your favorite shows coming back? Is SAG-AFTRA in negotiations? What's going on? I'm glad to be joined by my dear comrade, Kendrick Sampson, to help us make it make sense. Kendrick is an actor, an activist, an advocate for justice, best known for his performances on The Vampire Diaries, Grace Point, How to Get Away with Murder, White Famous, Supernatural, The Flash, and his portrayal as Nathan in HBO's critically acclaimed Emmy-nominated Insecure. Kendrick's activism challenges by example to boldly use our voices to uplift the most vulnerable amongst us, with a primary focus on vulnerable communities and intersectional racial justice and undoing systemic oppression in the criminal legal system. Kendrick formed Build Power as a call to action and invitation to others to join him in taking a stand for social change. Last year, Kendrick launched Build Power Productions, which seeks to challenge those in power and take ownership of sharing authentic narratives of Black and Brown communities. So glad to have you with us. Welcome, Kendrick.
I am so glad to be with you always. You know I love you.
Thank you. Love you back. Love working with you, love hanging with you, love plotting and planning, but that's another show. That's another show. Okay. Let's run it back because I'm telling you, people are a little bit confused.
Okay.
They've been reading too many gossip things or too much of those, those entertainment, whatever magazine things, and they're not clear. Who are the workers generally? Because I know there's so many different departments of entertainment that we're all learning about through this strike, right? But who generally are the workers that are covered by SAG-AFTRA? And then, what are people doing on strike? Like, why are they striking? The writers are happy and going home now. So what's happening?
Yeah, so you have SAG and AFTRA, right? Which were once two unions that joined together few years, what seems like a few years ago now, in a really big move. And SAG stands for Screen Actors Guild. And AFTRA, if I remember correctly, is American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, I believe. And so you had like this cross section of background performers, radio artists, background vocalists on when they're on screen. You have it's pretty extensive. Stunt performers, obviously screen actors, people who are saying the lines in front of them make up the bulk. Saying the lines in front of the camera make up the bulk. So screen performers, but dancers, some dancers are covered in these contracts. And so a lot of people are affected by the strike, and obviously it's pervasive when it's a joint strike, which is historic. Not only one of the biggest unions in the country, SAG-AFTRA, but also Writers Guild as well, decided to do their strikes in tandem. So you're even though the writers, for example, have reached a tentative deal, they still have to ratify that deal. It still has to go to a vote. They still have to draft the contract language. So the strike is not over. They've just paused their specific picketing and encouraged, in a show of, good negotiating etiquette, I guess. They paused their picketing because they've reached a tentative deal, but they have encouraged WGA members to, in the same letter, to support the SAG-AFTRA pickets and to continue supporting the SAG-AFTRA pickets because we're doing a joint strike. So they don't go back to work until we get a deal too. So that's what's going on right now.
Oh, okay, because that's the part I was like, what's happening? Have they abandoned their siblings in arms? But okay, no, they're not going back to work yet. So, you all get it together. You're going to be all right until these people get what it is they need to get. And what is
Right.
what are the demands? I mean, clearly there's one demand. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So that's clearly a demand.
Mhm.
But talk about that a little bit more, because I think, again, people are not really clear about what the demands are. They just know people are angry. We'll talk about it a little more later, but they think it's like rich people are angry. We'll get to that though. So we'll talk about that now in this very
Right, right.
segment. But what are the demands that are being made?
So writers are asking for a lot of things, increases and protections against the smaller the studios are advocating for, and networks and streamers are advocating for smaller writer rooms, which means less writers and writers assistants in the writer's room. And what a lot of people don't realize about that, that means less labor, that this is a job, that they have to come in, they have to clock in, they have to put a lot of stress into coming up with whatever the bosses have told them to come up with by a tight deadline. Entertainment is production is always stressful. um, and then, screen actors or SAG-AFTRA are looking, and they're also looking at AI protection. So labor movement across the board, whether it's UPS workers, whoever, everybody is worried about AI replacing jobs. So not only are they aiming to decrease the writers' room size or how many actors they actually have to use, they want us to be able to give up our image and for them to use our image. So when it comes to AI, the screen actors are the first line of fire because it's their actual face, right? But it's not the only thing that AI can replicate. They are working on um, artificial intelligence replacing actual people in their jobs so that they can save money. And the wild thing about them wanting to save money, again, which is um, really pervasive and universal across all labor fights, is they already have incredible profit margins, big uh, billions of dollars of profit. And there's this big gap between how much CEOs pays and these shareholders and stakeholders, these wealthy people at the top of these organizations, the very wealthy few at the top of these companies and studios and streamers, their pay and their bonuses have increased exponentially. And the workers who make them that profit have been their profit, their wages have decreased if you look at their wages compared to inflation over the last 30 years. Why is that? If we're doing the work and we're showing up on time and we're delivering the product, why do we have to go to social assistance and any other programs and other gigs and other jobs in order to support ourselves in the meantime, while these CEOs make these huge profits and take vacations? And something that I like to put into people's perspective is their yacht, their vacation in Saint-Tropez or whatever, where they get to relax and be with their family and make these decisions in a comfortable environment, is dependent on us not making healthcare. They're trying to find out ways to cut costs, and they do that to the worker, to the labor, and people are fed up with it. We should not have to be unhealthy when what we're asking for is less than 1% of their profit margin to fix it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes me think of a couple of things. I think about how when they first were putting in those self-service, whatever things in the grocery store. So many Black folks were like, I ain't gonna use that. Not just because we realized they would use that as a reason to say we were stealing stuff, but also because we understood clearly they're trying to replace people. Like they're trying to replace us with these machines.
Right.
I'm thinking about Governor Newsom just vetoed a bill that would have required human beings to be in the trucks, right? That was supported by the Teamsters. And even though they got those taxis in San Francisco that were totally automated, that were crashing into each other, so they had to stop those, he is vetoed he's vetoed a requirement of drivers in 18-wheelers. Now, we've been on those freeways with those 18-wheelers. It don't feel that safe with the driver. I don't know what it's going to feel like without the driver. But as you said, this is all ways for them to cut costs.
Yep.
When you're talking about workers being on social assistance and you're talking about the entertainment industry, there is this sense or this understanding that people have, much of it pushed by the industry itself in a way, right? That people that are involved in these industries that help define our cultural moments, whether that be on the screen or whether that be, in the world of athletics, wherever it is that really culture comes out of, people see the top people in their mind are making all this money, right? They're getting these Hollywood reports of who's making more of the millions. And so even defining people such as yourself as workers, it's like, what you talking about, Nathan from Insecure? How are you a worker? How are you the same as the truckers I just described? How are you the same as the hotel workers that are going on strike? And so many who are going on strike at this hot labor summer turning into a fantastically flaming fall, right? Like, how are you a part of that? And so how do we get people past these misconceptions that if you're working hard and you're having fun and you're having fun, meaning loving what you're doing, you're not sitting up here like Dilbert the cartoon traumatized, that somehow that means that you're not a worker and that you're not deserving of protections and that you're not deserving of decent wages.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because, when when you see us on carpets, right? You see us in these really nice clothes, and we might be coming out of a fancy black car, and there's all these lights and glamour and jewelry, and what people don't realize is we're giving that jewelry back at the end of the night. We are somebody gave us a budget. The studio gave us a budget for those clothes and a stylist and all that. And we have to go back to whatever Honda Civic or, apartment or things that we have that show that we cannot afford those clothes. Okay.
Back to the pumpkin. Back to the pumpkin.
Back to the pumpkin, right? And they know that it looks funky for us to be pulling up to the carpet in our cars, right? in our clothes, in our cars. And they want this big moment to be perfect to make people want to be these people and want to see this product. And that's created this vision, this false sense of everybody being rich in Hollywood, and that's just not the case. The majority, over 85% of SAG-AFTRA's membership is below the poverty line. They do not make enough to qualify for health care, which is around, I believe, $20,000 in actors' earnings. So they have to go outside of the industry in order to supplement that income and pay for doctors' bills. Doing what we love is how they get us, right? They're like, no, come be passionate about this thing. It's a privilege to even be in this space, not realizing they're still requiring you to have training. They're still requiring you to have a degree because it's competitive, right? And so they want the most qualified person, and you can't get an audition unless you have an agent that takes 10% and a manager that takes 10%. Then that's 20% of your income already gone. It's not a fun life. It's only with the hopes that you're not upsetting somebody, you're not upsetting one of the studio heads, you're not upsetting one of the producers enough that one day you will get a fair deal that compensates for all of the years of training, odd end jobs, gigs, stress, being thrown out of apartments, maxing out your credit cards. You're hoping that that one deal, in the same way that they do musicians, you're hoping that that one deal will compensate for all those years of stress and extreme, depression and trauma, because you're constantly unemployed. You're choosing to be constantly unemployed for the rest of your life. And it used to be, the hope was that you get something that gave you enough residuals, but they've even attacked that. In 2008, when I moved to LA, everybody was like, get a series regular role, or get this and get a guest star on this, and you can get residuals, and that will help you. And people, when they hear residuals, they think of wealth, the wealth influencers on Instagram that talk about residual income, or like passive income. That's not how it works for actors. You might do, if you're really, really, if you've got some good representation and you're really blessed, you might do a couple auditions a week. You put everything into those, and that's a lot. That's a lot. Even if you do one audition a week, 52 weeks in a year, that's still a lot of auditions. 52, especially since you might book none of them. You're doing really good if you book one of them. Right. You're ahead of most actors, probably 90% of the actors. And then you get that project, you spend all that time on auditions, you spend all that time preparing, memorizing, dropping whatever, trying to find somebody to cover your shift at work because you don't have the money. You know what I'm saying? You're doing all this and taking training and making sure you're still in classes, spending all this money. And then you get that one job, and that job doesn't qualify you for healthcare, and you still have to hustle. But everybody else sees you on TV and thinks you're rich, and you're still poor.
Right. I mean, you pulled out those checks. I was like, look at my brother. He is literally, this man is clearly not Black migrant. We cannot show those checks. They are embarrassing. What, $1?
Less than $1. I have a bunch of 1 cent checks, a bunch of checks that cost more to mail than they do to deposit, than they actually cost in the check. And so, when I moved out here in 2008, there was another strike, a writer's strike. And that's what a lot of people reference now. That was one of the longest strikes. And that's where they fucked our residuals. They came up with new language for new media, and to get us out of our residuals. And those residuals got less and less and less as the streamers got bigger and bigger, and TV and film started moving over more to streamers. They're using that as an excuse to say that that's still new media. That was 2008. It ain't new no more. It's traditional. Y'all got algorithms. You know how to calculate your profit. So you should be able to calculate ours. Right. Right. And those residuals are how people not even get to middle class as an actor, but get to survive. So that's the fight that we're looking at. That was a bit long-winded, but I wanted to make sure that I outlined that. It's labor. When you have $7 billion, $12 billion of profit a year, the very simple fact is that you've got a bunch of people working to make that profit. And the people that are working to make that profit are not getting compensated in Hollywood.
Absolutely. No, it's good for you to lay that out. That's why I wanted you to lay that out, because I think that it's important that people understand what we're talking about, because there's a bunch of people walking around here who are in unions, and there's a bunch of people walking around here who are not in unions that don't understand that they are workers. They are part of the labor force. No matter how it's dressed up, no matter how many times someone rents them a shiny black car, they're workers, and their concerns are the same concerns of the rest of us that are workers,
And I just want to also outline, just super quick, just imagine every time you get a check, you have to give at least 40% to the government. You give 10% to your agent. If you have a lawyer, which a lot of people are supposed to have, you have to give 5%. If you have a business manager, because you're expected to be your own business and do your own accounting for several different jobs with several different W-2s and all that stuff, and be a tax expert. So a lot of people have business managers or accountants that take 5%. So most of us are operating on about 20% of our income, something like that. So even when you do get a check, say it's $10,000, if you give 40 of that to the government, $4,000 gone, you got 6,000 left. You give 10% to your agent, that's $1,000. You are now with have 5,000. If you give 5% to if you have a manager, a lot of people have an agent and a manager. Most actors, a lot of actors have an agent and manager. You give another 10%. You give 5% to your lawyer, and then if you have a publicist, a stylist, those percentages still haven't come out, and you're already at like 75% of your money gone. I really want to make sure that people understand that's why a lot of actors don't have that money.
Oh no, y'all broke. You need to stay out there on the picket line. I'm coming out with you. I told you. As soon as I get back, I touch down. I'm going right out there. I'm going to bring a couple of drums, talking drum and yelling drum. I'm going to bring them both. So we can make sure that we let them know that this is unacceptable. I love that I see on the picket lines that the Black folks are getting together, lifting up their particular needs and aspirations that you all have. Again, it's a lovely conversation, but we're running out of time. So, but give us a little bit of the rundown of what the needs and aspirations, particularly of Black folks on that picket line, are.
Well, I'll be real with you. I would actually challenge. I don't know what's in this new tentative deal for WGA. They have not shared it. I don't think they've shared it with their members either until they officially draft the language. And I have heard no talks on the SAG-AFTRA side, and definitely not from the studios and AMPTP. Any sort of racial justice analysis or racial analysis, even thinking about the fact that this labor movement is so strong, started with the racial justice uprising in 2020. And a lot of the studios were using this time, the rumors are, allegedly, they were using this time to drop a lot of the writers' deals that they made, the production deals and writers' deals, first look deals, whatever, that they made with a lot of the people in 2020 that were unprecedented, right? And a lot of DEI programs, it comes on the verge of a lot of DEI programs being shut down and at the studios, and attacks on CRT in the South, right? On critical race theory, right ahead of a election, with the same narratives that have been perpetuated. Like, we got rid of cops in Hollywood and then they brought it back, right? And so the education is suffering, right? And our stories and the infrastructure for our stories is suffering. And when, to be frank, when a white production company goes under, there's several other white production companies that can take up the slack. When a Black production company goes under, and they've been on strike for 5 months, so a lot of programs have disappeared, a lot of people have moved out of Hollywood. When a Black production company goes under, it's one of the few. When a Black, writer moves out of Hollywood or just decides to not write anymore because it's too hard, it's one of the few. And we don't have a whole lot of infrastructure for us. So we do need specific protections to be talked about, and protecting those DI programs, those writers programs, entries into the union, and protections on set, protections in the workplace for all the traumatizing work that we do. And also, we're usually used for consultants in the meantime. Like, you got to double if you're the only one in the room. So it is a difficult conversation to have, obviously, during a strike. But I have to lift up my people. You know what I'm saying? And there needs to be strong protections against that, because really we are the reason that you got what you got. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Black people are the culture. So that is what it is. Period. Period, period,
Mm-hmm.
period. And so no, absolutely. And thinking about what you're saying in terms of the ways in which losing any of us just creates such a big gap and such a big hole, even in the creative fabric. I mean, I was looking really hard at the picture of the negotiators on the Writers Guild Association, of the Writers Guild Association. I think I saw one brother. I sent out a little prayer for him, asked his ancestors to be around him. Maybe
Exactly.
see if he can throw something in, because he was definitely the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Want to close out with some conversation about Build Power Productions. I mean, you are not new to this. You are true to this. This is not something that, I was talking to one of my sisters and she was saying, oh my gosh, that brother's still in it. She's like, he's still around, because so many people did flash and disappear. And it was about, maybe Mike Brown at one point, or it was about obviously Trayvon. It was about, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. It was about sort of these big moments. But you've been around before Build Power, and then with Build Power through all of those moments. And so pleased to be collaborating with you. Again, working on behalf of Black folks, regardless of migrant status and criminalization, and the most inclusive ways possible, which is how we know we got to do it. What's maybe one or two of the things that Build Power and Build Power Productions are on right now?
Yeah, right now we're supporting the strikers, making sure that we do show the connection between the labor movement and the movement to end mass incarceration and police violence, right? And the movement against this Super Predator 2.0 campaign that's increasing police budgets, and even in LA, right? 1 billion approved, 1 billion over the next 4 years to increase of, I think they already take up 52% of the budget. Or Cop City, right? In Atlanta, which is another hub of Hollywood, right? And we're the producers of those narratives that justify people in people's minds, that spending. Anyway, I think that right now we're super focused on caring for our people in our community in Hollywood as they're on strike, and making sure that we continue our partnerships with folks like Baji, and we're working on, God, fingers crossed, God willing, we're working on this building in Houston, and we got Build Power Day in February, designated by the city and the mayor. So we've been working really hard on that, and then continuing our political education, especially around gender justice and state violence and mental health, as we always do. Holding wellness events. We just had a wellness event for a lot of the picketers, the Black picketers. We know that, for white folks in Hollywood or in the country, like, art and storytelling is like a pastime. It's treated like a pastime. And for Black people, since the griots, right, in West Africa have been stolen from and brought over here, kidnapped and abused to build what we see right now, and tortured for so long, we have been trying to reclaim those stories, right? And that's what Build Power is here to do, and make sure that we understand our power in that. When we move across the country to LA or Atlanta, one of these hubs or whatever, we are not just thinking about a bougie pastime. We're thinking about the connection with our ancestors. It's a chance to correct the record. It's an opportunity to represent us and humanize us in the way that we believe we should be, and we know we should be. And so we're just going to continue that work and reimagining and realizing the beautiful future that we know our people deserve.
Absolutely. And I'm there with you. Cannot wait. Excited. I love what we're doing, and I love what you're, I just love it. I love the road that you're on. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's
And of
beautiful.
course, we're continuing to develop and produce on the production side these incredible stories. And that has been, that's the social justice work is a passion, and I wish we didn't have to do it. I want people to understand that. It's not something that we're just like, gung ho, like happy. We're doing it because we have to. And we believe that's our duty. And we also love the people in the community that we serve. And it makes it worth it. The thing that I love to do is develop these awesome fucking stories. All right. And show who we are and all of our glory and all of our nuances and all our gritty gray areas. And so that's what we really digging into as much as we can, that sustains me.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask most of my guests. I'm going to ask you to fill in the blanks. We need to let go of the notion of blank and lean into blank to be more free in 2023 and beyond. I'm going to ask it again. We need to let go of the notion of blank and lean into blank to be more free in 2023 and beyond.
We need to lean.
We're letting go first.
Oh, we need to let go. I was about to say lean away from. I said we need to let go of the notion of individualism, the individual journey, and that we need to. It's lonely at the top, all that kind of shit. Shed our community. Everybody can't take everybody with us. We need to leave the notion, let go of the notion of individualism, and lean into collectivism, our collective freedom, our solidarity, building together, in order to what?
To be more free.
Oh,
to be more free in 2023.
Yes. To be more free in 2023. Definitely got to do that. Don't let these people divide us up with weird, pitting us against migrants, pitting us against Black women, against cis women, against trans women, they know that we are the strongest voting bloc. They know that we are powerful, that we are so powerful, and they are working to pit us against each other in every way that they can. Know that an election year is coming up and we need each other more than ever because they pulling out all the tricks because we're actually winning.
We are winning. How do we win with Build Power? Where do we go to get plugged in?
Go on to @BuildPower. You can go to buildpower.com, BLD PWR.com, or @BLD PWR on Instagram and all those things.
Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so very much. I'm going to be out there with those drums, I promise.
Let's go. Come on and get them drums talking.
All right. Thank you so much.